Charles Bronson was one of Hollywood's most iconic tough guys, starring in dozens of action films that showcased his gritty style and ultra-masculine persona. Though he created an indelible screen image as a hardened vigilante who let his fists do the talking, Bronson's off-screen life was shrouded in mystery. Facts First presents Charles Bronson's daughter finally confirms what we thought all along. Charles Bronson was born Charles Bukinski in 1921 in the grim coal mining town of Ehrenfeld, Pennsylvania. His Lithuanian immigrant parents struggled to provide for their 15 children. When Bronson's father died, Charles went to work in the local mines alongside his brothers to put food on the table. The family was so poor he once had to wear his sister's dress to school. As a teen, he taught himself English and worked dangerous shifts removing coal mine support beams. But his prospects changed in 1943 when he enlisted to serve his country in World War II. He flew 25 perilous bombing missions over Japan as an aerial gunner. His B-29 bomber came under heavy attack many times, with Bronson displaying fearlessness under fire. He received a Purple Heart for injuries suffered in combat. His wartime service shaped his stoic, hyper-masculine screen persona for decades to come. His acting career takes off. After the war, he pursued acting, changing his difficult-to-pronounce last name to Bronson at his agent's urging. He soon found himself typecast in westerns and crime dramas due to his rugged features, towering physique, and steely gaze. Bronson spent the 1950s and 60s toiling in supporting roles until his breakthrough as one of the Magnificent Seven in 1960. But it was his modern vigilante films of the 1970s, like Death Wish, that cemented Bronson as Hollywood's undisputed tough guy. His ultra-violent characters channeled America's post-Vietnam frustrations. By 1974, Bronson became the world's top box office draw, commanding $1 million per film. His monosyllabic style and lethal on-screen persona inspired countless action heroes for decades. Bronson's daughter reveals his protective parenting. Though Charles Bronson often played brooding loners, his real-life role as a dedicated father showed his nurturing instincts. His daughter, Zuleika Bronson, has opened up about life with her famous dad. She reveals Bronson displayed an almost obsessive protectiveness towards her. He set aside a special drawer just for her favorite toys in his home office. Bronson made sure to peek in on 7-year-old Zuleika first thing every morning. His face would light up with childlike joy seeing her smile. Zuleika remembers her father hoisting her on his broad shoulders to playfully walk around their California ranch. But she also got glimpses of Bronson's deeply buried romantic side for his great love for her mother, Jill Ireland. She fondly recalls him tenderly brushing Ireland's hair aside and kissing her neck when he thought no one else was watching. And 20 years after Ireland's passing from cancer, Zuleika learned her father still penned old love letters to her late mother as his health deteriorated in his final years. Legal battle explodes over his estate. When Bronson died in 2003 at age 81, his wife and 7 adult children gathered to hear his last will and testament. It immediately became clear Bronson's confusing estate plan would spark vicious legal conflict. His third wife, Kim Meeks, received their $8 million Malibu home where she cared for him along with $1.6 million in cash. But Weeks still felt deprived of other Bronson properties she felt entitled to. Meanwhile, Bronson's children were angered by their father's young widow inheriting so much of the estate's value. Making matters worse, Bronson's will locked away most of his fortune in irrevocable trust funds with strict rules on access. Despite receiving property, assets, and millions themselves, this financial straitjacket enraged his heirs. The biggest payout from Bronson's $48 million estate went to daughter Zuleika, who got twice the cash of her siblings. This perceived favoritism bred long-lasting resentment between Zuleika and her brothers and sisters. In the end, Bronson's confusing will pitted family members against his wife, casting a permanent pall over their farewell. Bronson's private struggles and secret health battles. While Charles Bronson personified grit on screen, in private he wrestled with secret anxieties and fragilities. He held a lifelong terror of fire after childhood mining accidents. He refused to stay in any hotel room above the second floor out of fear of not escaping a blaze. He also grappled with hypochondriac tendencies and germophobia. He avoided shaking hands with even his biggest fans. His health deteriorated in the 90s, requiring hip replacement surgery that ended his acting career. After his wife Jill died of breast cancer, Bronson suffered bouts of heavy depression that he refused treatment for. His later years involved quiet, solitary battles with Alzheimer's and pneumonia before his passing in 2003. Behind-the-scenes drama and juicy rumors from movie sets. Charles Bronson cultivated an ice-cold on-screen persona, but behind the scenes, his fiery temper and eccentric demands occasionally erupted. While filming The Magnificent Seven, Bronson clashed with castmate Eli Wallach, once reportedly pointing a gun at him. He also didn't get along with Steve McQueen, resentful of McQueen's breakout stardom from the film. Other co-stars, however, saw Bronson's caring side, like Jill Ireland, who he stole from her Scottish actor husband while filming The Great Escape in 1962. On the Death Wish set, Bronson reportedly stayed in character between takes, keeping crew members on edge. And directors found him stubborn about camera angles. He demanded his rugged face always be shown in profile, refusing to be shot head-on. His private passions and secret artist side. It may surprise Charles Bronson fans to learn that the legendary movie Tough Guy harbored some unexpected passions and talents. Though he presented an ice-cold demeanor, in private, Bronson devoted himself passionately to artwork and poetry. He spent hours painting impressionist nature landscapes to give to friends and collaborators. He also had a lifelong affinity for animals and owned numerous rescue dogs. His English cottage was home to several stray cats taken in off the streets, and he spent weekends at his California ranch retreating to horse stables he had converted into woodworking shops. Early jobs in pre-acting years. Long before the cameras ever captured Charles's iconic glare, he worked a startling array of gritty and daring jobs from coast to coast. As a Depression-era youth in his coal mining hometown, Bronson shoveled snow for pennies and wagon-hauled harvest vegetables to put food on the table. Seeking escape from bleak prospects in Pennsylvania, an intrepid teenaged Bronson infamously hopped freight trains crossing the Great Plains. He briefly cooked in greasy diners and baked treats in Midwest bakeries while migrating west. Arriving in California, Bronson soon leveraged his muscular physique to find work in theater troupes and small traveling circuses as a strongman. He toured with carnivals, taking death-defying risks wrestling bears and performing daring stunts for crowds. By his early 20s, Bronson had already lived several dramatic lives on the rails, in the rings, and underground in pitch-black mine shafts years before being bitten by the acting bug. Those early brush-with-death jobs undoubtedly informed the authentic grit he later radiated on film. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite Charles Bronson movie? Let us know in the comments section below.